Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
I'm Elex Michaelson, filling in for Charles today on loan from Fox 11 Los Angeles.
And we so appreciate it. Thank you. We are going to start with all of the fallout from the two apparent terrorist attack. I say apparent because clearly New Orleans was. And to me, common sense tells you that so was Las Vegas, but they have yet to determine that officially.
You're saying blowing up a truck in front of a hotel owned by the president-elect might be trying to send a message?
When the truck is manufactured by Elon Musk,
right.
Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right.
Okay, now that we've established that, let's go to New Orleans for the start. So you know obviously what happened here, that the terrorist here, who was Sham Sadim Jabbar, drove this truck into this massive crowd on Bourbon Street. There it is. That's jumping the barrier, going around cops and just mowing down people in a 3-block area before he gets out of the car and is shot dead by police. So we know all of that. Now they've revised the number of dead from 15 to 14.
15 including him, so that was the revision. He was the 15th.
He would be the 15th.
Terrorist.
So let's talk a little bit about what is really important now. The FBI has pivoted, that they are no longer saying they believe he had help. That was alarming beyond words.
Scary. So this is far less scary if you really think about it, because the idea that there's this terrorist cell that has been activated in New Orleans
with at least 4 people still on the loose,
and they're about to have the Sugar Bowl and everything else, is a scarier concept. Not that this is great that there could be one guy acting alone, but I got to feel a lot safer if I'm in New Orleans right now than I did 24 hours ago.
Absolutely. And they said there were 3 men and a woman that they believed might have been accomplices here, and I think a lot had to do with these IEDs that they found in that vicinity in the French Quarter. They found, I believe, 3, and now the surveillance video shows it was Jabbar who planted them. So they have now backed off what they said, and they're getting some criticism for this, by the way, that they shouldn't have put the alarm out the way they did before they knew. But maybe they were just being cautious.
I mean, it's a tough situation because you want to try to be transparent and help people know where you know and talk about what you don't know. But it's a challenging thing communicating in one of these situations.
And that's fair.
But essentially, that these improvised explosive devices were planted by him, potentially were going to be remotely detonated by him. Of course, the good news is that they didn't explode.
Going back to that, they also found, it's stated that they found IED components in the trailer park where he lived right before the attack. And I think we can also gain a better picture on the mindset he was in before these attacks. Looking at his history, we spoke to his ex-wife who said he was abusive and he's been arrested for theft before, and he pled guilty to multiple misdemeanors and was also sued for delinquent child support. So after his time in the military, you can really see how he took a turn and where his mind was at before these attacks.
And there's one other thing that we found in court documents. In 2020, his then wife, who he was in the process of divorcing, got a restraining order against him. And the restraining order talks about all sorts of things, including prohibiting him from engaging in violence against her or their child, kidnapping their child, taking the child out of school. It's a massive restraining order. A lot of that is just kind of, when you get a restraining order, they list all of these things. But it is interesting because in the hours before the attack, he was recording things as he was driving to New Orleans. And one of the things he recorded was that he said he was initially thinking of just killing his family.
Right. And that essentially killing his family wasn't going to get enough attention. It would just be covered as a family drama and not something that would draw the attention of the world. And he got exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
As somebody who seemed to be following ISIS, this is part of the ISIS playbook. Also part of the ISIS playbook is to record a last will and testament, essentially knowing that you're probably going to die in the attack. He did that right before the attack as well. And you can see he was trying to inflict as much damage and get as much attention for doing it as possible.
Now, we also know that New Orleans right now, the city officials are getting some heat over the fact that the barricades that the devices that they were going to use to prevent cars from coming in wasn't completed.
Right. So you think about, like, if you've been to Capitol Hill in Washington anytime recently, they have what's called ballards, which are basically these things that come up out of the street that make it harder for a car to ram into a crowd. And after we've seen cars ram into crowds all over the world for years now in terrorist attacks. Yeah, recently we saw it in Europe, that the thought is that you need them. So New Orleans is about to host the Super Bowl. So they thought, we need them for this. We're going to have a whole lot of people there, so we're going to have this plan to get them up and running. Well, they weren't up and running in time for New Year's Eve, so if it's good enough for the Super Bowl crowd, it wasn't good enough for them. And my question for you as an attorney is, could there be a lawsuit here? Could the city or the state or somebody be liable from these victims' families who say, if this was in place, my loved one would still be here?
Yeah, and it's a fair question, and I can't answer it, and I'll tell you why. This is Louisiana. They have very different laws from much of the rest of the country. A lot of it is based on French law,
right,
and it's just different. And there's something that many cities have called sovereign immunity, which means even if they do something negligent, you can't sue them. And there's a lot of reasoning behind that. I don't know whether New Orleans has that kind of sovereign immunity or not, but if they don't, you could see that happening. You could easily see that.
I mean, I would be very upset about that as a victim's family member in this situation, thinking this is good enough for the Super Bowl crowd, but not good enough for my family member who's out there.
Okay, we're going to now move to Las Vegas because hours after the New Orleans attack, a Tesla pulled up to the Trump Hotel and it blew up. Somebody inside that car basically had a detonating device, and you see right there, as soon as it pulled up, you saw smoke, and then it just blew up. There were all sorts of explosives in the vehicle, and they are saying it is a possible terrorist attack. There are two things going on. One is it a terrorist attack? Two, if it is it connected to New Orleans?
And so far, officials say they do not believe that the two attacks are connected. There are some similarities. We know that both of them were military folks who trained at Fort Bragg.
And were both in special forces.
Both in special forces. Both had served in Afghanistan. But we don't know the name of this Cybertruck suspect, at least.
No, we actually have it now.
Okay.
And he is a guy who, like you said, has that background. But there are two other things. One is that they both rented vehicles used in the attacks from the same car-sharing company. That's number one.
Yeah, called Turo.
Right. And number two, the detonating devices in New Orleans and in Vegas were similar. So they haven't said yet. They haven't even said if it's a terrorist attack. But come on.
Yeah.
I mean, an Elon Musk vehicle and the biggest vehicle in his fleet now next to the hotel owned by the soon-to-be president.
But to me, there is a key difference here, which it seems like the Vegas attack was more about symbolism. Right? The symbolism of the Tesla, the symbolism of the Trump Hotel. It wasn't necessarily about killing the most amount of people possible, because if you are in New Year's Eve in Vegas, there were a lot of areas that had a whole lot more crowds than that one. You could have driven into some of the crowds there on New Year's Eve, or you could have found a way to kill more people. Now, some of this is a testament to the Cybertruck and how strong it is, that explosion basically went straight up. It didn't go into the hotel. I mean, really very limited damage compared, thinking about what just happened there, which is a testament to how, the material that truck is made out of.
I agree with you, but only to a point, because what we don't know is if the driver believed that the explosion would send metal hurling inside the hotel, which then could have done significant damage.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether my guess is he didn't know it was going to go up.
Yeah, but if you think about New Year's Eve in Vegas and the tens of thousands of people in the streets on that night, there was an opportunity to do something similar. So we'll see if these just happen to randomly have happened at the same time or if there is some connection. But so far, officials do not believe there was a connection.
But this does not seem like an accident.
No, definitely not an accident, and that's strange to even be thinking about it.
Hi, my name is Lachey. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and the New Orleans terrorist attack was very heartbreaking, and to see such an act of violence disrupt lives of others and communities was very devastating. And in situations like this, I feel as though we need to prioritize, like, supporting the victims of the family and the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. This is the way the new year started. It's a bad omen. We are going to take a break. When we come back, we have a friend of Jabbar, somebody who has known him since grade school. And we are going to talk to him about Jabbar's life and the changes in his life that may give clues to what inspired him to do what he did. Welcome back to TMZ Live. Harvey and Elex here. We have been talking about the terrorist in New Orleans, trying to figure out who this guy is. Well, somebody has known him over the years, from grade school onward. His name is Chris Poussin. He is also in the military, or was, and was communicating with him. And he has seen some changes in him over the years. And Chris is joining us right now. Chris, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thank you for having me.
So talk about when you connected with him first, about childhood, and then we'll get into the more recent.
Yeah, we first met in middle school. We were in the same eighth grade school together. And then just coincidentally, we both moved to the same town in ninth grade and wound up going to the same ninth grade campus. And we just maintained our friendship all through high school.
You called him Sham. What was he like as a kid?
Very much as he was up until the last few times I had spoke to him. He was always reserved. He was always pretty much kept to himself and quiet. He wasn't a troublemaker, wasn't, a class clown, nothing like that. He did his work. He was very smart. And he just kind of, did his own thing.
So we've heard that echoed from other people who had known him earlier as well. So talk about the change, when it happened and what happened.
So we graduated high school in 2001, and that was before the age of social media. So when we graduated, he joined the Army, I joined the Air Force, so we kind of lost contact for, several years there. When Facebook came online, we reconnected, and then it was at that point I had noticed that he had really put a lot more of his life focus on his faith.
Did you ever notice that the faith turned into something that was radical?
Oh, no, never. Whenever we were kids and whenever we were in high school, we never spoke about religion or politics or anything like that. So whenever we did reconnect and he did become more vocal about his Muslim faith and his beliefs, it was kind of a surprise, but it really wasn't anything bad. He never spoke negatively about anybody. He didn't harvest any negative angst towards any particular group or towards America or anything like that. Every interaction we had was always positive.
So he had some difficult marriages, one of which ended with a restraining order against him. Does that align with the time you were talking to him? Did he ever talk about that? Because you do know that there are these recordings hours before the attack where he had initially talked about actually killing his family.
Right. Yeah, I haven't heard the recordings, but I did see on the news where they had found those videos. No, we didn't really speak about family issues or financial issues, nothing like that. Like I said, I met him as we were kids, back in 1996, we were maybe like 12, 13 years old. So we were really young. So whenever we did reconnect on Facebook, it was more so, hey, how you doing? How you been? That sort of thing. It was more, superficial type conversations. It wasn't anything too deep or anything like that. So I had no idea what he had going on behind the scenes.
What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard about this attack and then you found out it was your childhood friend?
It was gut-wrenching. Absolutely devastating. A friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, actually messaged me yesterday morning and asked me if I had seen the news. And whenever he sent me a link. I read the article. It was from some third party news agency, and I told him it's probably just a mistaken identity. Don't believe it. And then just the more information that was uncovered, and then the pictures surfaced online, and then just everything that else that reporters have been putting out there. It's just unbelievable. I had no idea that he was capable of doing this. I did not see this coming at all.
So I get you didn't see it coming. Looking back now, I mean, you've had a day to process it. Is there any light bulb that's gone off in your head where you thought, wait a minute, he did say that? Or is there anything, not necessarily that he's capable of committing this kind of a terrorist act, but something that felt amiss?
No, never. And as a matter of fact, every time we spoke, even up until the time where we stopped communicating back and forth, he was always very positive. Everything he said was always in a positive light. He was always, wishing people well. Like he would say stuff like, praise to Allah. He was Muslim, and he would say stuff, God is the best. And he was very vocal about his faith, but it was never like a radical extremist type, conversation that would have been like, oh, maybe I should, tell somebody about this.
So when was the last time you spoke to him?
The last time I actually spoke to him was probably on Facebook or towards the end of 2018, maybe the beginning of 2019. He wasn't online too much. He didn't make too many posts. We're actually still friends on Facebook, but if I try to, tag him in a post or whatever, Facebook untags him. So,
it's interesting because if 2018 was your last contact, it feels like 2020 during the pandemic, and this is when he was having these issues with his now ex-wife, where she went and got a restraining order. Feels like something happened around that time. One of the things that's come out is he was really struggling financially. We've seen that in documents. Get any sense of that?
I read that too. Again, we didn't discuss his financials or anything like that, but the timeline does make sense as far as, the troubles he was having and whatnot. But by that point, like I said, he wasn't online very much. So we didn't communicate about those issues.
Is there anybody in your friend group, I'm sure you guys are all talking to each other, that maybe saw this coming, or what are you all talking about amongst yourselves?
No, nobody. Everyone I've spoken with, we graduated with a graduating class of about 300. So it wasn't, an overly huge school. But the people that did know him, everyone I've spoken with, this is a complete shock. This is completely out of character. If something happened over the last, since 2020 and whatnot, I wouldn't know.
Okay. Chris, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You know what this reminds me of? This is so interesting. We have a documentary coming up next Monday.
That's all I was thinking about during that, right?
We talked to friends of his,
right,
and it was the same thing. How on earth could that guy do this?
Right. But sometimes something happens, and then you become a completely different person. Maybe that's what happened here.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to take a break.
Up next, we change things up a bit. Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively. New word from both of their camps today as the lawsuits keep piling up. Stay with us.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. If you thought Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni was the end of that, if you will, it was kind of a play.
Yes, nice.
Well, you're wrong, because Justin Baldoni has filed not just a lawsuit against the New York Times, a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times, which published a 4,000-word story basically outlining all of the misdeeds that the Times claimed that Justin Baldoni committed during the filming of It Ends With Us.
And basically, he's saying that this was a hatchet piece, that the New York Times was out to get him, and left out a lot of context. So let's point to...
Well, not just context. That they're saying it was just flat out distorted and lies.
Right. So let's point one example of this. So let's go to the Times story. This is the New York Times story. Baldoni repeatedly entered her, meaning Blake Lively's, makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding.
Now, this goes to her sexual harassment allegation against him in her lawsuit.
So now let's show more context of why he went in there. This was a text message that Justin Baldoni exchanged with Blake Lively.
And this is her to him.
Yeah, new pages can always be sent to me as well, please.
Now, what they're talking about with new pages is script.
Script, right. And then Blake Lively says, I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out lines, which certainly sounds like an invitation to come into the trailer.
It is.
Knowing that she's
Well, that
pumping.
is an invitation.
Yes.
That is. So what Baldoni is saying is that this was manufactured, not real. The New York Times, if they saw the actual email or the actual text, which they put in their story, they would not have put it the way they did, because it was an invitation by Blake and it wasn't an intrusion by Baldoni.
So this is critical, of course, to the underlying lawsuit by Baldoni against the Times, because in order to prevail in a defamation case, he would have to show that the Times acted with a reckless disregard for the truth. Basically, they had alternative information and they neglected to present it because they wanted to paint a very specific picture.
That's the allegation, Jason.
That's the allegation, and that's what Baldoni would ultimately have to prove in order to prevail. The New York Times is in a tough place here. I mean, they by not presenting this other information, they've got to come back and say, we just didn't have it. We didn't know it existed. And I don't know how successful they're going to be in presenting that case.
The New York Times, by the way, has said they stand by the story, that there is nothing they're retracting. So they're being very strong here, saying that this was a valid story. That's what they're saying. There's more, a lot more in this lawsuit against the Times. There was an allegation that Blake Lively was being shown pornographic material by both Baldoni and the producer of the movie.
Jamie Heath, who also helps to run Wayfarer Studios, who's Justin's best friend, who is behind a lot of what he does professionally.
Who she's also suing, by the way.
Right. So let's show you more context on that one. So this was what Blake Lively had said as a condition of her continuing to work on this film: no more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife, to Blake Lively and or her employees. So what was the video that was shown? Was it a sex video? Well, they say no, that this is what the video in question was: a non-pornographic recording of Heath's wife during a home birth, a deeply personal one with no sexual overtone. To distort this benign event into an act of sexual misconduct is outrageous and emblematic of the lengths to which Lively and her collaborators are willing to go to defame plaintiffs. That's from Justin Baldoni's lawsuit.
So now you have dueling lawsuits. We are being told that there will be yet another lawsuit filed by Baldoni against others connected to Blake Lively. So there are now multiple lawsuits. She may counter with yet another. We don't know. But this is going to be, Jason, I got to tell you, this, I suppose anything can settle, but it feels like the New York Times, at least right now, is digging in so hard that I don't see any kind of a settlement looming.
Not for now, that's for sure. I mean, he wants to make more of a point. He obviously would love to get a huge settlement out of the Times, but he's trying to make a bigger point that is going to relate also back to the Blake Lively lawsuit against him, which he's defending himself in. And in that suit, if he can point out that she withheld information from the New York Times in order to present a particularly negative picture against him, or frankly, these text messages exist and do contradict the allegations she made about him in the complaint, that's a huge win for him. He has a lot to lose here. He's on the verge of losing his career based on the allegations by Blake Lively. He needs to defend himself full-throatedly, and I don't think he wants to settle with the Times quite yet, because that's his best ability to get a lot of information from them that it could be useful.
Hi, I'm Sarah from Castle Rock, Colorado. I'm a big Blake Lively fan. I always have been. And after everything that I've seen and that I've read about this whole situation, I really think that Justin Baldoni is really just trying to save face in this situation, because I can't imagine someone with her platform and her following that she would make up such false allegations against someone else, knowing the extremities of what could happen afterwards.
It is interesting, and I've known Justin Baldoni for a long time, and his biggest issue has been women's rights and feminism, and that men should treat women better, and that men should be sensitive to women's needs. And so the portrait that Blake Lively is painting is the complete opposite of everything that Justin Baldoni has worked for many, many years to create. So either that was a completely false narrative that he was creating, or maybe what Blake Lively is saying isn't exactly what happened.
That is really interesting. Okay, we are going to take a break.
When we come back, both the individuals involved in the New Orleans attack and the Vegas attack were both military veterans. Were they both radicalized? We're going to talk to an expert who studies this issue, who almost was radicalized himself. This is his area of expertise, and we'll get insights next.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. Harvey and Elex here. So the one commonality we know between the two attacks on New Year's Day is that both assailants had been in the military and had both been in special forces, as a matter of fact. And so that is interesting to know. How is it that people who are able to get in the military, who are vetted to some degree, become radicalized?
And trained to kill, too. And if they become radicalized, that's especially scary. And so we have joining us right now somebody who has followed this path and knows a whole lot about it. His name is Christopher Goldsmith. He is the CEO of the Task Force Butler Institute. And Christopher, thanks so much for being with us. And we're jealous of your location, first off, but it is the holidays, so be it. But we got a serious conversation here on a beautiful day behind you. Talk to us a little bit about your personal story and why this concept of potential radicalization for the military is so personal for you.
Thanks for having me. I am the founder of an organization that tracks extremism. It is called Task Force Butler Institute. We train veterans in open source intelligence research. And it's open source intelligence researchers who are finding out the backgrounds of both of these assailants. One of the things that I think we've been dealing with throughout my lifetime as a veteran is the idea that veterans are prone to being radicalized, or they are more likely to commit some sort of atrocity. And that is not the case. But what I want to be clear with, as we saw in Louisiana, when veterans are involved in extremist violence, they are more likely to be affected, right? So that is what makes this so important to pay attention to, is that those who are, serve in the military, these are people who join looking to put their life and their bodies on the line because they believe in this country. But a very, very tiny, tiny percentage will go off to become radicalized, commit some sort of violence. And when they do, they're more effective than the average extremist, who may just be a civilian.
My understanding is that you were on the cusp of being radicalized. So can you get into that? Because I think your personal story here is so relevant.
Yeah, so I joined the Army in 2003, was in basic training by 2004, and Iraq by 2005. And I served in a war that was based on lies. And that is something that, affected me extremely deeply. Once you're at war, it's not like you can change your mind and go home. You're there. So I spent, I was 19 when I deployed, 20 when I came home, witnessing all sorts of just the most horrific acts of violence and results of acts of violence. My job was to photograph things like victims of torture and mass graves. That is something that no human being is prepared for, particularly someone who's a teenager, right? As a teenager, your frontal lobe is not fully developed. And when you experience something like that, it is something that will change the rest of the arc of your life. It changes you physically and chemically. So I don't know the specific experiences that these two veterans, now terrorists, have had. But what I can say is that experiences at war can be a radicalizing factor for some of these individuals.
I want to go back to something about what you experienced, and I know this probably is going to sound ridiculous, but when you see things as abhorrent as you did when you were serving, to me, it makes a case for somebody to say that I'm going to be a man of peace or a woman of peace because I'm so abhorred by the violence of war. But the way you're describing it is seeing that makes somebody do what they find abhorrent. And that doesn't seem intuitive to me.
So I think that a lot of people would be surprised because there are a lot of stereotypes about veterans. A lot of veterans are like peacemakers. Once we've seen our share of violence overseas, we come home and say, no, that's it. I'm done with violence, right? That is not how I initially came home. When I came home, I was filled with hate because I blamed the people of Iraq for all of the most horrific things that I experienced. And then I started to be like, well, actually, it's not their fault. The only reason that I went to Iraq was because they lied about weapons of mass destruction. So then I was mad at Bush and Cheney and the Republicans, right? It wasn't until I was home for maybe 2.5 years that I started meeting people across the political spectrum who are involved in the peace movement. And that is what drew me away from this further path of radicalization. And my objective is to help people understand that these traumatic experiences, they can be a radicalizing catalyst for some people, but they can also be a catalyst for change.
Is ISIS specifically targeting American vets?
Yeah, ISIS, white supremacists, the complete political spectrum, the ideological, the radicalization spectrum, they are all looking at veterans because we are economically efficient targets. Now, extremist organizations target veterans for recruitment and radicalization for the same reason that Democrats and Republicans do, for the same reason that Bank of America and J.P. Morgan do, because we are effective members of team and we are evangelists for any organization that we become a part of. Veterans are, by definition, if you serve in the military and you don't get kicked out, you are, sorry, someone got a big fish. So if you've served in the military, you are by definition a team player. And that is what any extremist organization needs. It's also what any Fortune 500 organization needs. Veterans are recruited for the best companies in the world for the same reasons that extremist organizations do.
Sorry for intruding on your vacation, but this was really, really interesting.
And we can see how disciplined he is, that he's able to keep his thoughts so articulate in the midst of all of that happening around him. So
go focus on your dinner right
now. He's well trained.
Yeah. Really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
And thanks for your service to our country.
Yep.
Thank you.
Wow, that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Really, really interesting. Okay, we got to take a break. When we come back, Meghan Markle has made her return to social media. Chose New Year's Day to do it. The question, why? We actually have some answers. Welcome back to TMZ Live. Meghan Markle has made her return to social media.
I've been waiting.
7 years.
I've been waiting.
I know. Well, guess what? The wait is over, and now you have to judge whether you want her back. So this is what she posted on New Year's Day. She is
out there. She's running on the beach. We know that it's 2025. How do we know, Harvey?
Because she wrote it
told
in
us
the sand.
It's in the sand.
So I think what she's saying is this is going to be a new chapter for her this year. And then the next day, today, she posted a trailer for her Netflix lifestyle show, which dropped today. And I don't know, play this. We'll show you. You're going to get an idea from it.
I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it, surprising people with moments that let them know I was really thinking of them.
What? This is probably one of the most glamorous moments of my life. It's It's magic.
We're not in the pursuit of perfection. Woke us all up. We're in the pursuit of joy.
So if you thought that Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow were too out of touch and you wanted something more relatable.
Right. Here you go, folks.
Here you go.
Look, I mean, some of these, but that hummus does look good.
Who is the intended audience for this?
That's a really good question because, there were a lot of people who were really interested in them, but I'm starting to think the interest really had to do with them spilling the tea on the royal family because since that happened, they've been canceled from Spotify. And there was a lot of talk that Netflix was disappointed. They've made a ton of money. But this is a really important launch for both of them because they've got to deliver to Netflix. And that means what you just said, is there an audience for Meghan Markle lifestyle?
And part of what she's been doing over the last 7 years was she had the Duke and Duchess Instagram, which was connected more to the royal family. This Instagram is just her name, Meghan. It's her going out on her own. And we'll see if there's an interest for that. I just wonder, how is this relatable to anybody who lives in that world?
There are so many people. We saw Gwyneth Paltrow. Goop is not relatable to anybody. Her favorite thing, she said, was hand-painted wallpaper, and yet she turned that into a huge brand.
It's true.
Because she was smart with the marketing. And I think whether you love or hate Meghan, she's been really brilliant with this, because if she had posted the trailer for that show first on Instagram, nobody would have talked about it. But she starts with that weird, goofy 2025 in the sand thing, and then when people are paying attention, she sneaks in with the promo. So far, she's doing it right.
But I don't know. I mean, Meghan Markle is not Gwyneth Paltrow. And Gwyneth Paltrow is a huge success. Can she duplicate it? I don't know the answer to it.
You want to be, either relatable to some people or hateable by others. Like, she should just do this in a British accent. Just really, that's her leaning into it. And people who hate her will tune into that.
Hi, I'm Brianna. I'm in Kansas City. I think it's awesome to see Meghan come back onto social media. It just goes to show that even celebrities, sometimes they have to take a break. People that are in the spotlight, sometimes they even have to disappear and come back. And it's great because social media is still here. So I think it's going to be super exciting to see what she's going to be bringing to social media.
You going to watch?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to tune in. I'm super excited to see what she's going to bring.
So there you go. There's the audience.
Yeah,
Maybe
really.
This is going to be a big hit.
It might be. It might be. Okay, taking a break. When we come back, there have been a lot of rumors over the last couple of months that Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber are on the rocks. Justin decided to post something trying to put all that to rest.
It's amazing how much you guys share outfits.
So there have been a lot of rumors about Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber that maybe their marriage is not solid. In fact, there have been stories out saying they're headed for divorce. Justin Bieber decided to start 2025 by squashing those rumors with that.
Can you imagine?
So this is Hailey Bieber celebrating.
Happy New Year to Justin.
Can you read this?
Going anywhere with you, baby. And essentially, they had spent some time apart. She had gone on a vacation without him. People were wondering what's up with that. So apparently, that's his New Year's Eve celebration.
And then she posted a picture, kind of a closer-up picture of her ringing in the new year.
And people are always going to be miserable and want to, spread these kind of rumors. But you have to wonder if this also has to tie into Selena Gomez being so happy with Benny Blanco. Justin's always going to be tied to Selena, and things are going great for her right now. So the easy assumption for, people who are tied into this are, oh, well, then Justin must be doing really poorly right now. And naturally, that comes with divorce rumors.
So wait a minute. So you think Justin is still pining over Selena Gomez?
No, but the fans are.
The fans are.
Are they really? Because I thought that's kind of ancient history now.
But as a Bieber fan, ever since Fetus Bieber, people are always going to have that connection. And especially with Jelena being such a major thing, people are always going to think that they were going to end up together, and now they clearly aren't. So, yeah, they're always going to hold on to it.
And most importantly, Justin has a baby, right? And we saw a picture of that as well.
Yeah, but how many
this is baby track.
how many married couples are miserable, but they have a baby, so they stay together? I'm not saying that.
Hello, my name is Desiree Almaraz Estrada. I'm from Whittier, California. And in all honesty, I'm glad that Justin Bieber is shutting down the rumors and standing up for his wife. So many people seem to be so focused on other people's relationships than their own relationships. And as long as they're happy, treating each other right, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely fair. Okay, it is that time of the week, folks. Tim is here with his rejects.
So excited.
Okay, Tim, we're starting a new page.
Yep.
December was not a great month for you.
Okay.
Here you
fine.
go.
All right. So say you want to go jet skiing, but also want to go ATVing at the same time. You guys are both busy, so here's an idea. You get an ATV put on jet skis, and you enjoy the water that way. So you have kind of both you driving in the ATV, but while on the jet skis on the water. Pretty cool idea these guys have. So
yeah, but it takes the fun out of jet skiing away because you're not close to the water.
Oh, look, they're getting sprayed with the water.
No, but it's not the same. It's like, why
close.
Why would you do that? Okay.
That's why it's a reject.
I literally don't get that, and I jet ski. So, next.
All right, so say you guys want to go skiing, but you don't want to, say, use the physicality of skiing, but you still want to go down the mountain.
Oh
well,
my God.
you get a lounge chair and hook them onto the skis, and you can do it that way.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Sensing a theme here.
And it may be safer because the skis aren't going to cross as much as if you're standing.
Yep.
I like it. Okay, last one.
All right, so everyone mini golfs. Everyone pretty much gets a hole-in-one in mini golf, but how about this version of mini golf? So they're up above into the sky, hits the ball.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
And then it lands onto the mat.
No.
And then it rolls, and then it stops, and then it goes right in.
Come on.
Like a dude perfect of
Wait a
mini
minute,
golf.
wait. Was that video cut?
No, absolutely not cut. I saw the whole thing, and it's clear as day. I don't know how many tries.
How many tries?
We don't know.
How many tries?
I don't know if they were there all day or not, but they made it. So
that was a good one, Tim.
Harvey, I have a question.
That was a good one. First off, thank you, Tim.
Why do so many people...
I don't know.
Why do people on your staff applaud so much for Tim and not for you?
For obvious reasons. Okay, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, Mark Wahlberg. Go figure, Mark Wahlberg is showing off his physique. Mark Wahlberg loves showing himself off in a sexy kind of light.
Yeah,
he
usually he always looks good, but he's doing something different now. He's shaving his head for real.
And we're not saying bald people are not attractive.
Yeah.
But this is pretty radical.
Yeah, he's got a new movie called Flight Risk, which is coming out at the end of the month. So instead of wearing a bald cap, he really got his head shaved.
And this he's playing a psychotic killer in this.
What do we think of this look?
It's really shocking.
You know, my holiday binge was Shogun. You know that?
Yeah.
And that was very similar to the way they did this intentionally as a Japanese look for a period piece. I don't know if it was inspired.
I don't know, but can I tell you what was just frightening here? And kudos to him. I would be so afraid it's not going to grow back right. Honestly, I would be scared to death that you leave well enough alone, and when you do something like that, it grows back really funky. But
you know, if he's bald, he's still got the biceps.
He's still got the biceps.
So,
Thank you for doing this today. Really appreciate it.
So fun hanging with you. Thanks so much, Harvey.
Really appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow.